Our seventh tradition states that every AA ought to be fully self-supporting. Declining outside contributions, we will now pass the basket. This is a weekly literature and step meeting. Our format is as follows. The speaker is asked to talk for no longer than 30 minutes. He or she spends about 15 minutes on qualifying themselves, and the other 15 minutes are on either a composition from the big book or on the step of the week, followed by group shares, discussions, or questions until 7 p.m. We will then end the meeting with the Lord's Prayer or the Serenity Prayer. We can find our past weekly meetings on our YouTube page called the Stay Alive Literature and Step Group Meeting. You can find information about our upcoming meetings and other great stuff on the Doylestown Recovery Group Facebook page. Do not forget to smash the button, subscribe, and share. This brings us to the speaker portion of the meeting, June 2nd of 2025 in Doylestown, PA, on Monday night, 6 p.m. at the Stay Alive Literature and Step Group Meeting. Let's give Rich a warm welcome.
Thanks, Karen. So I'm Rich. I'm an alcoholic and some other things too. So I signed up for this a while back and kind of forgot about it. And I wasn't really thinking that it was about our, talking about our story. So I quickly read over. I think it's supposed to be step 9 this week, and I kind of read that over on the way over here out in the parking lot. And Ron informed me that we go through our story a little bit too. So for me, I started drinking very early in life. Like I was like 13 maybe, and I started drinking every day. Like the first time, I remember the first time I got drunk. I had tasted beers and stuff like that from my dad here or there, mowing the grass or whatever. The first time I got drunk, I drank like 8 or 9 beers or something, and I remember thinking like, I'm going to do this every day for the rest of my life. It was like the answer to all my problems, and the pursuit that from that time on to constantly get one more was the same as the last drink I picked up. It was that intensive pursuit and longing or craving. So that craving, they talk about in the book, allergy, where it sets off a craving. It started with me instantly. Like I wanted to get drunk the next day, and then the next day, and the next day. I struggled with some stuff as a kid. I don't know. I guess these days I'll call it ADHD and that kind of thing. Maybe some learning disabilities. They say dyslexia. I had problems reading and that kind of stuff. So I struggled in school, and I got like beat up about it, from my dad. So I was petrified of my dad, like growing up. And in my house, I was like wandering around in anxiety all the time. And that struggle, when I took that first drink, all that stuff went away. And I tried to stay out of the house and drink as much as possible. And nobody kept up with me. Nobody really, my friends and stuff, didn't understand I wanted to do that every day. Like they wanted, and so that, of course, that led to other things early on too. This is AA, but I picked up other things at the same time. It's a shock to me that my parents really didn't pick up on what was going on with me till a couple years down the line, till I was like 16, 17 maybe. They knew I had this problem with school and I was struggling, and they couldn't really control me or get me in line. That was a source of a lot of anxiety at my house. My dad was very controlling and all that kind of stuff. So that set the stage for me being, kind of a rebel on the outside all the time, outsider, feeling not a part of, that kind of thing. My family, I was always in trouble with this whole situation. So the drinking became a haven for me, to hide in, and that kind of eased my anxiety and all that stuff. And, it was crazy. Like even at 13, 14 years old, I remember like I was hanging out my window of the house, like putting beers in the drain pipes and stuff, like hiding them from my dad, the empties, and I'd slide them down the drain pipe and then when nobody was home, I'd get up and, throw them all away up on the roof and stuff. But I was drinking in my room like all night long and stuff, and it was insane how fast that took. Like looking back, it just took control of my life instantly, and that's all I wanted to do. Somewhere around high school, I kind of flunked out of the last year of high school. The rest of the school was just, barely getting by because of this situation, and couldn't understand what was wrong with me. Felt different and all that kind of stuff, and this just made it worse. And the other things, the dry goods became a huge part of my story. And when my parents found out about all this, they were devastated and started putting me in programs and that kind of stuff. And that just, everything was just, a mess my whole life. Like, drinking ran away with my life from that moment on, I was in and out of rehabs my whole life. If it's 20, it's 40, you know what I mean? Back in the day, late 80s and 90s, you used to go into detox for like a week and they'd turn you back loose, I never got it. I never, they started sending me to AA, in my 20s. I started, getting recommended to AA and stuff. I went there and thought, what am I doing here? Like in the back of the room, they had the steps on the wall, and people were happy and talking about 30 days. I just couldn't get in 30 days. I couldn't even imagine it, like living that long without a drink, at an early age like that. And, I picked up the dry goods stuff and it really went off the rails, and I was sick, like, borderline losing my life every weekend with dangerous car accidents and ODs and all that kind of stuff. As the drinking thing was there all along, like that had to be first. As soon as I picked up one, the other went with it. And I moved away, from my family, and I moved away. The whole prospect of having a good job or a career and everything, all that went out the window. It was basically just survival mode. I did everything the book describes in there. I changed locations. I moved all over the country. Been in jail in probably like 15 different states in this country. Did time all over the place. It was just, my life was out of control, and in turn, I was very angry about all that I couldn't figure anything out. Nothing was going my way. The black cloud was over me. Couldn't figure it out. I would go to meetings. I would go to rehabs and stuff, and the minute I got out, or if I left early, I was back at it. Just couldn't live with myself. And I started coming around AA, kind of seriously trying to figure out what was wrong with me and how to beat this, if you will. Around 2010, I got hooked up with some guys down in the North Philly area. That's where I kind of grew up, and I started getting I got a couple years together, and but it was like white knuckling it. The guys that I hung out with were pretty much make meetings. There was really no answer. They kind of just the trip back then was just making meetings and hanging out. It was still a struggle. I still was angry, discontented, all that stuff it says in the book. Probably, there was times where, some of that, after spending a little time sober, that, desire was put to sleep a little bit, but it was always there. And I wound up picking up for one reason or another, a couple years down the line. Ever since then, that 2010 trip, I got a few years, like I said, and nobody ever presented the book to me or forced me to kind of sit down and go through the step work. Steps were always on the wall. They said, you got to do the steps. I was like, I don't know what you mean, write them out, just keep writing page after page. What do I do? I was a real knucklehead. I didn't, I thought I knew everything too. I was one of the I know kind of thing, and I never got better, and I kept tripping over the same stone. And like I said, I've been addicted to many different hard drugs for a long time, and I know I did a lot of brain damage and stuff. And just couldn't figure it out, just couldn't listen, just couldn't, and I have nobody to blame but myself, but I really wasn't presented with a program of the steps. Like, nobody really kind of stepped into my world, or I was able to spot that and go with them, anybody. And then I moved up here, and I started to get exposed to it, and I was going in and out. Like, I'd get a year or sober. I started coming to a couple meetings in Doylestown here, Ron's meetings, just, dissecting the big book and the steps and that kind of stuff. And I would argue with myself in my head, about what I believed and didn't. And I would think I could stay sober because I did in the past for a few years. But that gnawing feeling, unsettled feeling in the back of my mind was always there, and I would go back out. And it's been a real struggle. Like I said, I'm grateful to be sober today. I picked back up about a year ago, and went to rehab again, and got out in 9/11 last year. And so I got a good sponsor that's into the step work, that kind of had the same story as me. And I met him at a big book meeting, the one on Saturday over at Salem, Saturday morning. And he really broke me down, and got to the root of a major part of my problem is my self-esteem. And he had a story very similar to mine. We started doing the steps, and it feels like I'm getting somewhere. It feels like I've been exposed to something I was never exposed to before, or wasn't picking up on in the meetings. I actually had somebody that was pointing these things out, to me, like who I actually was, and it took a little while to really look at myself. When I got to the fourth step, you hear everybody say they're afraid to do the fourth step, or they go out when they do the fourth step. My life was exposed all the way through. I was getting in trouble. I was in jail. There was no secret to what was going on. I was kind of blind to exactly how bad things were. So he had me do the fourth and fifth step with him, and writing that stuff out. I never wrote that stuff out, and I said that I kind of did the steps, and what I meant by that was like I read through the book, and I wasn't one for really retaining a lot of information, and so I never really did it. But this guy sat down with me, read the book with me. There's nothing like that when you read it with somebody else. Like, the words kind of have a whole new meaning to me. I haven't been working lately, so I had time to really kind of look at this stuff, do my fourth step pretty deep with him. I meet with him every Saturday, and we go over stuff, and it's a real revelation, and it's kind of a sad thing at age 53 that I'm just really getting a good look at my life. And we're talking about step 9, like, I've made apologies to everybody along the way that I've hurt. My family really suffered with this whole thing, They've always been there for me. They've tried to get me out of trouble and help me start over a million times. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I ran right back out and did the same thing, because I didn't know what alcoholism was really about, and the grip it had on me, that it's just not going to stop, and won't leave me alone. And I couldn't get free of the past. I couldn't get free of my self-image and what I'd done to people, the guilt and the shame and all that stuff. And I'm working on that with my sponsor now in the step work. And that stuff never occurred to me. Like, I never heard that, when I went to meetings, and So it's a different story, a different path right now. I encourage you, if you're new or just starting out in this or coming back or whatever, to really get a sponsor that knows the book, knows the program, knows what this is really about. I fooled around with it too many years, and I guess I probably didn't pick somebody that really knew that stuff, because maybe I wasn't done and maybe I wanted to wrap it up.
Oh, no.
And as I look back, I didn't want somebody calling me out and holding me to what I'm supposed to do. The disease is really deep with me. It's been tearing me apart for my whole life, and it's just been heartbreaking and crucial. I barely escaped with my life as of right now. Many times, and so we're talking about the 9th step, and going to. I've hurt so many people and been in so many situations. A lot of people that I probably won't ever see again. I've been all over this country and that kind of stuff. But I'm taking my time with looking at my relationships with my different family members, with my past relationships with girlfriends and that kind of stuff, with women that I've lived with and that kind of stuff, my child and his mother and that kind of stuff, and all the damage I did. And before I run right out and start throwing apologies around, my sponsor has me taking a real deep look at those relationships and what those people meant to me and what I meant to them and that kind of stuff. As far as those, God has a funny way of putting people like showing up in your life right when you least expect them. There's a couple people that have popped up recently, just that maybe I thought I'd never see again even, and I was like, I got to get this out right now, and made like an amends to them, and ask them for forgiveness, and ask them to if there's anything I could do to make the situation right. One of them was like a good friend of my dad's that I hurt bad, like lost a lot of money for this guy. He put me to work, and I lost about $5,000 for him, working for him, and he popped up, and he's 80 some years old, and I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. I hadn't seen him about 10 years, and I didn't realize I was still carrying that. Like when I saw him, I'm like, man, I still have that. Even when I talk to my dad sometimes, I'm like, I know he was a lifelong friend to this guy, and they were friends after this situation. And I saw him, and it was out of coincidence, and I talked to him recently, and he called my dad afterwards, and my dad called me and was like, I am so glad you got to talk to him before he passed, and he was like, I'm really happy that you guys got that resolved, and we were hanging on to that for 15 years, and I believe it's only because I'm really trying to do the best honest job I can with my sponsor right now, with the steps, with meetings, with other people, and I've been sober before, but that never came up, and the honesty makes things happen, I believe, and I just pray to God that I stay in it, stay connected with my sponsor, doing the program, people that run the meetings and whatnot. Ron has always been a good friend to me and helped me for many years. Kara just met recently and stuff, and there's a lot of help out there, and for whatever reason I didn't take it, I didn't see it, and it took a long time, a lot of needless suffering. So try and open your eyes if you're new at this, listen to what people say, listen to their suggestions, and it does happen. There's some kind of magic that goes on if you're doing the right thing. So I guess that's all I have, really.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. We have come to the part of our meeting where we open the floor to your shares, discussions, and questions. Limit your time to 3 minutes. Please try and keep your conversation to the literature steps shared by tonight's speaker. If you feel like drinking, or if you had a drink today, please see me or speak to someone after the meeting. Now we're going to open up the meeting.